And we are all set up and ready to go. Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Satisfactory. So last time we left off, we were working on our Ficsonium power plant, and specifically the, the electromagnetic control rods. So, let's figure out what the remaining steps are for this whole thing. So let's pop that up, and we have the EM control rods. Okay, so all we need to do is get fixite trigons, EM control rods, and photonic matter, and some dark matter residue. Get all those together, make Ficsonium fuel rods, and then also make some Ficsonium out of singularity cells, and then those sort of feed into each other with the dark matter residue and the Ficsonium. Alright, so let's see, what do we need? We've got the EM control rods here. We've got the trigons on the train network. We've got the singularity cells in a drone port. Photonic matter is free. The dark matter residue is also here. And the plutonium waste is down at the nuclear plant. So, we're going to have to... let's see. So the Ficsonium itself takes the dark matter residue, the plutonium waste, and the singularity cells. So those would all be imported to wherever they're going, except the dark matter residue, which is a fluid. So we just have to grab that from here and import these two things. Then we need to get the fixite trigons over here as well. Okay, this should actually be very easy, I think. Like, it should be pretty straightforward. So, step one is to fly up to the train level. And how are we supposed to get up there? Just jetpack up, I guess? We need to get up to the train level and then set up fixite trigons import, and everything else is via drones. So those can all be down here. So we just need to go up here. And so the power plant itself is going to be down in the water. So it makes the most sense to just bring the trigons down to that and build this whole thing at ground level, as opposed to bringing everything up here, building it all up at the factory level, and then bringing it all back down again. So yeah, let's get the rest of the way up. And we keep on going. Alright, so now we're here. So what we need to do is we need to bring power poles out here specifically for the purpose of flying. That's good. So we need a conveyor hole which goes down this time and is going to be taking 1,000 fixite trigons per minute. And then this belt just sort of comes over this way, and it's going to follow along with these other belts until we get up to the train network area. So it's gonna be heading in, generally speaking, this direction, more or less. So off we go, and we keep on going forwards, and we just keep on moving. Alright, so now we're in close enough for us to get the train system built up, and we don't seem to have easily left ourselves enough room here to add one more, but it's not that complicated, right? So we just need to get it in this whole area back here. So we need some foundations, and I guess it has to be on this side of the tracks, which is going to make things a bit more annoying. But we don't have room on the other side, so that's what we're going to have to do. So let's build out some space for all this stuff, like that. And then we get in a train station, which is going to line up with the others, and then go a good bit off to the right, so that we have plenty of space. Okay, so now let's get the freight platforms in. And we get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of them, and we have them facing this ways because that's the general direction that we're trying to head to. Alright, so the input side of this is we're just gonna have to take this train back here and just loop you around this way as well. And please snap in normally. Like that. There we go. Okay, so we probably want like a block signal in there. And just so that this input area can be a different region from these areas here. Okay, so now we need to get the output train onto the tracks somehow. And I guess it can just cross over like that, but it's kind of gross. So we need that to get upgraded to a path signal. And then that becomes a block signal. And that becomes a path signal. And then all of these guys are going to need to be path signals as well. And that should now be functional, right? So this whole area is one giant signal. So that should be all clear. And we have signals in there, so yeah, it should be good. So now we just have to label this train station as Ficsonium Trigon Input. It's annoying that their names are very similar. That's going to cause some confusion, but it is what it is. Okay, so now we just need to get the output, which we only need 1,000 out of this, so we only need one floor hole per stop, because we need at most 1,200. And we've got 5 stops, so that should be more than enough. We're obviously going to have to put in a buffer, because 1,000 is close enough to 1,200 that it might cause problems with the trains stopping and starting output. But it shouldn't need like a super crazy buffer. Pretty simple one should be good enough. So you all get brought down, and you all come down here, and just keep on going. So these all get placed, and that is all 5 conveyor lifts. So now we just merge them up. So we put the mergers in so that all of these outputs can combine up into one belt, like that. And then we connect them all with Mark 6 belts to be able to hold the full capacity, just like that. Alright, so now we go organization, industrial storage crate, and Mark 6 belt goes into that, Mark 6 belt can come out. And that will probably, I think, be going down another level, or is it just coming over this way? Okay, it's actually not going down another level, it's just going over that way. Alright, that's fine then. So, another thing... Alright, let's get the train built in first. So we go... transportation... electric locomotive... and this particular menu is slightly different than it was before 1.2, and I'm not used to it yet. So we put our train cars in, and this is Ficsonium Trigons. Alright, so we have to go to Ficsonium Trigon input, Trigon source. And you will go here until fully loaded or unloaded. And wait for 0 seconds. And that is that train set up. Okay, then I think we also need to set all of these. Oh, I messed it up. You need to go to the other one first. If you have those settings while these are all set to load, it'll just sit there forever and be stuck, which we can't have, so we need to just send you off while we update these to all unload. So now that train is off, and it should be making its way down towards the Fixite Trigons. Okay, so for the other resource input, the singularity cells just get drone ported in, and the plutonium waste will just be drone ported in. However, we're actually going to need to go down there because I haven't set up the drone port for carrying plutonium waste. So we only need 50 of it a minute, so a drone port should be fine. Alright, so that is the previous nuclear plant, which is all the way off to the east. So we head off this way, and it is mildly inconvenient that this new nuclear plant is going to be very far away from all the old ones, but it's fine. It's just Ficsonium after all. I wonder how much power it'll be. Alright, so we drop down to here. We need to make sure not to randomly bump into something, because there are a lot of drones in this area. Okay, so now we've landed here, and we've got all of this plutonium waste, and the radiation cloud is massive and powerful here. So I need to grab iodine-infused filters, and let's just grab a whole bunch of them. Okay, so I need to swap to jetpack mode, and really this whole area is just completely cursed at this point. Alright, but it's fine. So we just need our filter supply to last a little bit of time. And we get that all set up. So now we can get a drone port in. Still not used to this menu being slightly different. So this is plutonium waste source. And it is going to get powered up by connecting over to this random magnetic field generator factory, which also happens to be right here. Okay, so now we need to set this up to output up to this new area. So we've got these going in here, and they try to fill this up sort of right to left. So I think I do want to do this the same way I've done it in the past for the uranium where I take it out of the boxes to make sure that the storage output can compensate for any lack of production. Like if there's something weird going on the plutonium side, then we can just draw down the storage and not have that impact Ficsonium power immediately. So we get all of those guys in, and then we are... Actually, I think we want these to be priority mergers, right? So we do that, and we will be priority center, I think. So that should pull from the furthest back ones. So then we can have sort of these furthest ones over here as the ones which have all the storage for longer. So now these connect across. They just go across like this. And then we connect all of these belts up. And then we can just pop this in up this way. So we just get our Mark 6 conveyor lift up to here. And let's actually have that go through a floor hole, because we might as well. And that floor hole goes there. Alright. And now this just goes out and into there. Okay, so we have plutonium waste source. It is filling with plutonium waste. We should be all clear now. And okay, it turns out we've only even drained this first box. It looks like... Yeah, it looks like we have tons of space left on the plutonium waste side, so that's all good. So that's set up, and then we will be fueling it from the other side. So let's respawn and head back to the Ficsonium location now that we've got that set up. Alright, back to jetpack mode, grab more. Another stack of ionized fuel, because we were down to 11 of those, which is no good. Okay, and then we're heading north, right? Gotta remember where all these things are. And that's not always easy when there's so many of them at this point. So we just fly over here to this factory. And we land safely. Okay, so have the Trigons shown up yet? No, actually, fantastic timing. Here they are right now. And that's a full train's worth. So for now, at least, we're getting enough of those. So that then does its thing. And now we need to get over here to the drones to get in the singularity cells and the plutonium waste. So we just want 2 more drone ports off of this row here. And this area is actually incredibly scuffed in terms of the foundations, so we need to make that more square and then put on our foundation blueprint, which just lines up like that. And there we go. Alright, so now let's just bring a random power pole over this way to get these 2 guys attached up. So then our next step is to get the fuel into them. So that goes into that one, which connects across to there, and over to there, and finally all the way Why does that say that it's too steep? It shouldn't be steep at all. Alright, it did something weird. I don't know why it was like that, but whatever. It's fine. Alright, so now we've got that in. So this one is Ficsonium, plutonium input. And this is Ficsonium singularity input. And that's probably not like my standard format for describing drone ports, but it's fine. Okay, so now this one gets to go to plutonium waste source. This one gets to go to singularity cells source. And now they each get a drone. Or not a drone port, a drone. So they each get a drone. Their fuel is getting in there bit by bit. So this one is taking off, as is this one. Alright, so that should be that. Now, hopefully we've left empty space down here. We have. Good. Okay. So, we can put in floor holes there and there, and we're going to have to bring these guys down as well, but only at Mark 1 belts, which should be quite easy. So those come down, and we just bring them down their lifts. There we go. And now we can get this whole thing around. And then these just go along that way, and we'll get them lined up with their destination a little bit better in a moment. For now, they just go forwards in this general direction. And we also have our Fixite Trigons belt over there, which we're going to need to deal with. So let's just expand this foundation out for all this stuff to go down. And we need to add in 2 more conveyor poles. Just there and there. And then these go around this path, as does our super fast Mark 6 belt. I don't like the fact that these are off-centered on this, but it is what it is. Are these going backwards? Yes, these 2 belts are going backwards. So we actually need this to snap around that way, so that they're all facing the correct direction. So now we can just bring these belts all the way forwards until they all connect up. And that just goes like so. And then we can grab the Fixite Trigons belt and get that one connected in as well. Which is going to be a bit more work because it's all the way over here, and we're going to have to hop over some belts to get it to the right spot, but should be relatively straightforward anyways. So we head over here and grab our belt. So this just gets moving. And it just gets moving around. So This just goes. And it goes. And now we need you to stop here, go up one tick, straight over all of this, and then down into this area where you can connect up. Okay, so that is in, and the trigons are already moving. So now we just need to bring all of these belts all the way down to ground level. Although actually, wait a minute, I just realized this is dumb, because we're also going to have to bring a long pipe down. And all of these things are up here, and the only thing down there is the EM control rods. So if we bring the EM control rods up, and then send the fuel rods back down, that's only like 2 belts going all the way up and down. Alright, yeah, no, this is fine. We're just going to build this part of the factory in this area where we are right now. That makes a lot more sense. So this is going to be our sort of starting area for our factory. Always better to think of things at the last possible moment rather than right after the last possible moment, so it could be worse. So we are going to need to bring power poles over here, and these trigons aren't going to need to go all the way down this way. And we're actually going to repurpose this as much as it exists. So this will be the 50 EM control rods, and those are going to be coming up this way. So now we have just about everything. Alright, so step 1 is the Ficsonium itself, which is the plutonium and singularity cells plus the dark matter. And we are going to need, what, 5 particle accelerators for that, apparently? So, do I have a particle accelerator blueprint? I do. Is it any good? Unclear. And does it even use all the inputs? No, it only uses one of the inputs, so that's just kind of useless to me. So let's make, I don't know, let's make a particle accelerator blueprint. That'll be fun. And nice to have. So we get you in. We are going to pop down a particle accelerator and push you pretty far over to this edge. And you get a merger in, and you might as well have Mark 6 belts going. So we want that to be relatively short so that the auto connect can work nicely. This goes all the way here and again falls just a little bit short of the edge of the building itself. Then we're over this way, and I just realized that the way I normally build these sorts of things is on multiple floors. Did that power pole not get placed? I want to put a power pole over here so that I don't have to constantly be walking around on ground level. So that should provide enough power for all that to work. And yeah, we're going to want to take that apart and just give it a slight floor. So we get a wall, and ideally 2 walls would be nice to have. I do not know if the particle accelerators are short enough to fit like this. If they aren't, then we'll have to clear all this out, and I know that they fit with one walls worth of basement. So hopefully that'll be fine. So we go to production, particle accelerator. Yes, they do fit like this. Fantastic. Alright, so the particle accelerator just goes like that. And we get our merger in. And then this all gets branched out like so. Okay, so now we're going to take the two solid outputs down to the lower floor. And we are going to then just have the fluid out input up here. And no, not that. So this is going to be preset to Ficsonium, because why not? And it's only a couple items each for the inputs. So we just do that. Then we get our pipeline, which we want to again be at a good spot for auto snapping. So leave a little bit of space before the edge of the machine. Actually, that's not nearly as complete as I thought it was. So let's forget the machines are weirdly shaped. Alright, so let's have you go out to like there, just so that you're a bit closer. And then you get your pipeline input. Okay, then we drop down, and these get conveyor lifts pointing in both directions, like that and like that. And okay, the fact that radiation is happening means that the plutonium waste has showed up, so that's cool. So this is particle accelerator. And we're just going to overwrite the previous one. So this one is a better design. Alright, so now we just have to start popping those guys in, right? So we go blueprints, particle accelerator. And we can build these just in this area. And get you nice and lined up. And let's actually also just get you lined up with the edge of that. Oh, the game crashed. Very fun. That has been happening more frequently when placing blueprints, I guess. I don't know what's going on with that. But at any rate, we'll be restarting now. Alright. So now we get to go along our last autosave, and hopefully it wasn't that long ago. We're going to have to find out. So, just have to sit here and wait for the very, very long loading screen while my hilariously big save is loaded. Shouldn't be completely... It shouldn't take that long. Yep. The game has crashed a little bit more frequently since the most recent update. And I don't know if that's because of the update or because that just happens to correspond with whenever I made my factory so large that it started becoming an issue. Okay, so we were here and this was sort of midway through making our new particle accelerator blueprint. So let's just get all that stuff back in. So we get the particle accelerator, we get its merger, we get all of these belts set up. Something that I forgot is that I'm building on a foundation here, which means that the actual size of the building isn't what matters, it's the size of the foundation, which is stable, so we don't actually need to think quite so hard about the specifics of where we put in these belts. Oh, and these can be Mark 1 inputs. And then our pipeline goes out this way and then all the way over. Alright. That is set up again. And we might as well reset the recipe. And then we just drop down here and get the lifts in on this side. So you and you, and then actually these walls are going to be extremely in the way, as is that random conveyor pole and this random conveyor pole. So that's good. We managed to make a better blueprint the second try. So this is particle accelerators. We save that and clear the designer. Then we dismantled the designer, and now we get to see if this works the second time around. Hopefully it works without issue. So we just need to get this built in, and we want it to be sort of well aligned with the existing foundations. And which way do we want it to point? I think we actually want it to be pointing this way. I couldn't tell you why I think that's important. It just feels like that's the right way of doing it. Alright, that time we place it and it works just fine. Very cool. Okay, so we need 5 of these. So let's get the foundations set up for that. And this should be like exactly the right thing. So that just goes out. Oh wait, actually these are 6x6s and these are 5x5s. That's a little bit awkward that that's slightly different. So we are going to need to bring the power lines over as well. So that comes all the way out here. And I've lost count of how many of these I can fit into this area. And also the power lines do not reach quite as far as I would like them to. So let's get that first machine powered up, and then the rest of these go in blueprint auto connect mode. So that's 2, 3, and let's get those 3 that we have powered, so we can just daisy chain these machines and they're powered up. Alright, now we need to get enough foundations for another 2 of those, and if we just get 3 of those, that should definitely be enough. Alright, and then we can put our last 2 particle accelerators in. So that is number 4, and that one is number 5. Okay, so now we just make those connections, and are these powered up properly? They are. Okay, so now that is going to be 50 each of plutonium waste and dark and singularity cells, and then it'll be 1,000 dark matter residue. So we're going to get those connected up. So we hop down to this level, and we get in a 1 to 5 balancer. And that will just be going in somewhere like that. And then this just drops all the way down. Okay, then let's get the rest of these compressed in to not take up so much space. And there we go. So now we just have to run these belts all the way down here. Particle accelerators are so insanely big. Like, there's absolutely no reason for them to be this massive. But it does look cool, so there's that, I guess. It really isn't looking cool like the most important thing. Alright, so that just goes forwards. And a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so that is connected up. And then we just need to do the same thing on the other side. And first, let's get... Oh wait, first we actually want to limit the output rate of these things to 50 instead of 60, probably. So that should be straightforwards. I guess, though, since we're doing that, let's just get the other 1 to 5 balancer in over this way. So you're lined up like that. Push you a little bit over there to give you some room, and now we can connect these guys all up. So actually there was a better way I could have done this if... Sorry. There's a better way I could have done this if I had thought about the speed limiting beforehand. I could have done a 1 to 6 splitter and then just taken the 6 back in as a priority merger and then not had to do all this stuff, but it's fine. It's going to make things marginally more complicated, but whatever. So that goes all the way forwards into there, and then one more. Just, we take this one, you keep on going, and almost there, and in. Okay, so those 1 to 5 splitters are all set up. Now we need to do a 1 to 6 splitter that only sends one of them back. So we get conveyor splitter. So we're going to need 2 of these, right? So this first one can be 1 to 2, and the second one can be 1 to 3. So we will merge up. We'll merge up you and you and you. So we have 60 going in, 30 and 30, 20 and 20, so that's 50. And then this is 60, which then, let's see. Yeah, so this is the last 10, which just goes into there at medium priority, and then that becomes a Mark 1 belt. And you go into there. So now we just have to do the same thing over here, except let's try to get this to line up better. Barely not line up. So that lines up to there. Then we have a splitter and another splitter. So this one combines up. Okay, that's apparently not quite happy with it. Give you a bit more space. Okay, still not quite happy. Give you even more space. No, maybe you need less space, actually? No, you definitely don't need less space. You need more space in both directions. Okay, yes, you do. So that means that this splitter actually needs to be like a tick over that way. And now those two combine up. This one goes into there and forwards to there. And then we get our priority merger here to take the 10 back. And that is that. Okay, so now we just have to get these belts in like that. And in like that. Okay. So we have the singularity cells, we have the plutonium waste. Those are going to go in to make us our Ficsonium. And that should be all good. So now we just need to get the dark matter residue in. And that is going to mean we bring this over a little bit. Then the dark matter residue over here is down that way, so we're going to need to go down a floor or two. So that goes down like that, and then goes straight down another one. Okay, so now we head over here. So this is the dark matter residue source. And each of these... Okay, this is going at 35%. So let's see what's the problem with this. Because 35% is hilariously low. So you are short on dark matter crystals. Okay, you're short on dark matter crystals, and the recycling loops here aren't giving enough. Okay, so that is a problem which we're going to have to fix later. Let's add dark matter crystal shortage. Just make a note of that and leave it there for a little bit. And let's just hop up here. Yeah, so that's definitely, we're going to have to figure out what's going on with that. I'm pretty sure I did the math and we have enough dark matter crystals. So it should be fine, but it currently isn't. Okay, they're back now, so that's good. And each of these guys gets fed 500 dark matter residue. Now I have pre-planned this to be the correct amount, yes? So this is, it should be, if I remember correctly, we had, I don't remember it all. We had 60 dark matter crystals for each of these, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, so that's 360 dark matter crystals. And these guys are 50 each. So yeah, this should be 260 in total, and we've got, let's see here, we've got 120 plus 120, so we've got 240 here. That's 2 Mark IIs. Then we have an additional 40 here, so that's 280. Alright, I might have done the math wrong, but because 280 is... Wait. No, this isn't supposed to be a Mark II, is it? This is just supposed to be a Mark I. So we have 240 plus 20 now is 260. So that is that. And then 2 of these 3 will be active. 1 of them is going to be dismantled. So let's take you out. You don't get to exist anymore. We bring this pipe back here. And it is going to need to go quite a distance. All the way back here and then up into that. So you go up onto the ceiling there. and then in. So that won't be fully functional right now because we don't have enough dark matter, but it'll be something at least. So this is receiving a slow trickle of dark matter residue, and that supply in principle should cover for half of the dark matter residue of this, and then we just need to deal with the other half. So we have Ficsonium now, hopefully. Do I see any Ficsonium on these belts yet? Okay, no, there's no plutonium waste. What has gone wrong there? Did you not get connected up properly somehow? Yes, I forgot to do that. Alright, so plutonium waste is now going. And that should provide us with our Ficsonium. And then for the fuel rods, we need to get just the EM control rods, the trigons, and some photonic matter. And that will be that. And that's going to take place in 10 quantum encoders, which, if I recall, are too big for even Mark III blueprint designers, so we're going to have to do this manually. So let's get a nice big chunk of space out here, which is not quite sensibly aligned, but close enough. Okay, so now we have to fill in this area here and quantum encoders. Okay, so they're very long, but pretty thin. So we should be able to fit 10 of these in, like the space of these 5 particle accelerators. Now, how many items are going in here? It's 3 solids and a fluid. So you are going to need a floor to work with, and just something like this ought to do. So this just becomes another floor, and all this stuff gets built in. Alright. Hopefully that's enough to get at least most of them down. So now we go and start placing them in for real. And unfortunately we're going to have to do all this building manually, which is going to be super annoying. Because there's a reason that I generally do this in blueprints when possible, but it's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's actually overclock these 5 to 2x. And actually, let's just overclock these 4 to 2.5x. That will be much, much easier than doing it some other way. So we have Ficsonium on the belts, so that's cool. So now what we need to do is we are going to send 2 of these guys down a level and make those consisting of spacing. And then we're going to take one of them up on this level and the fluid input up on this level as well. So that is all in. And the only high throughput item here is a fixite trigon, so that will be on the higher floor. The rest of these items can just go down like this. And these go in everywhere. Okay, now these we need to max overclock because we're doing only 4 of them. So we have 6.25 times 4 is 25. That's the number we expected to get, which is always a good sign. So those overclocks get pasted, and now we can just daisy chain these guys along as well for power. Okay. So that's all set, and now let's get the splitting in up here. So the top floor is the Fixite Trigons, which are 250 each. So that is a Mark III belt there, and a Mark III belt there. And then you get a Mark III belt there, and a Mark III belt there. And then we get those connected up with belts strong enough to carry 500 each. And then we have the Fixite Trigon input here, which I guess we'll just bring over on this upper half level, just for the sake of having it like that, so that it's not on the lower level conflicting with all the other stuff. So this comes around and is going to go over this way somewhere. Okay, while we're up on this level, let's get the pipe in for our photonic matter. So that just goes across. And then we have it going down like this. And then it just goes into all of these. Okay, how much photonic matter is this? It's 500, apparently. Okay, so then we get a converter, I believe. It might just be one, it might be two. Let's see. Converter, excited photonic matter. Okay, it theoretically could be one if we max overclock, but let's just get 3 of you in and not max overclock. So you are now 500 divided by 3. Copy, paste, paste. Okay, so now we need to move this belt just ever so slightly so that we have our pipeline in here. And that goes across. And there we go. So now these get connected up, and then that snaps across to there. And let's get these machines daisy chained. So that will be the photonic matter that we need. And the first couple batches of it are starting to go through. Alright. So next up is to get the Fixite Trigons into all of this. And this goes along to here. And then underground. And then like that. Alright, so now we get that all set up. And that just connects back. Trigons, check. Trigons, check. That's step 1. Step 2 is to go down here and get these all set up. And these are just like 50 each of EM control rods and Ficsonium. So, oh wait, no. Half of these need to be facing the other way, because we need two separate splitting groups. I just forget that that's how that works, because normally I don't have to automatically build it, because normally it just is in a blueprint already. So these lifts go down, and there we go. So now the belts go across, and the belts go across. Alright, now we just need a little bit more space to get one last belt into here. Okay, so that is that, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side, and then we're going to have to run all the way down to sea level, and wait, that splitter doesn't go there, that splitter goes here. Then we're going to need to run all the way down to sea level and fetch the EM control rods, which is going to be a bit of a process. So those all combine up, and there we go, there we go. Alright, EM control rods. How close to directly above you are we? Pretty close, honestly. Let's just see if we can get you to line up directly in. So that goes down, and then while we're going to be dragging belts from this is going to be outputting the Ficsonium fuel rods, which we want to go down to sea level so that they have access to water. So we're going to bring those down at the same time. So these all belt up together, and then they're going to be going down. Okay, so that comes down, and can we just get you like over next to this one's just so that we can drag the belts along the same kind of path, so we can do both of these simultaneously. Okay, so that's in, and because of that, this floor lift is going to have to be pointed in a different direction so that they don't overlap. Alright, so both of those are going down. Now we are going to swap to jetpack mode and just bring them the rest of the way. So these just go all the way down to somewhere around here. And then one of them is going to be going up, and that will be the EM control rods. The other one is going down, and that will be the plutonium or the Ficsonium fuel rods. So that should be that. These just keep on going down. Let's pause a little bit so that our rocket fuel can recover, and then just immediately get back to it. Okay, so we're at a close enough level at this point. So let's see, which one of you are the EM control rods? Is that these guys over here? Yes, that's these guys over here. So we just need to bring this belt all the way over. So it's just going to come over this way and then go up this way. And we are going to need to set the splitter to be left any center overflow. So that's all set up, and we just continue bringing this forwards. So this just goes all the way up to here, and then sort of over in this general direction, and then this is the one where it all goes up. So that wraps around like that and in. Alright, EM control rods should now be connected up. It's going to take them quite a while to make it all the way, but that's fine. So let's head back up. Head back up and get the rest of this stuff sorted out. And then we're going to have to drop back down to deal with the actual power production. But that will be a later step, just slightly later though. So we head all the way up, and we just keep, there we go. So we just keep on flying up, almost there. And we need, the main thing we need to do up here is we need to connect the dark matter residue outputs for the Ficsonium fuel rods. So these guys, I'm going to need those. And we also need to connect the Ficsonium up. So let's get this first. So you are going to go all the way across this way. All the way like that. And then these all just connect across. So now all of this will have access to the dark matter residue output of these machines, which reach power range. Aren't these guys powered? They are, but they're not projecting it very far. This is mildly annoying, but fine. So all we have to do is get this pipe to run around the edge of this whole setup. So you go around here, and then you go into that. And that should provide the dark matter residue to feed this half of these machines. Eventually, once it starts, obviously. So, that should be everything. So now it's just a matter of waiting on the EM control rods and getting the Ficsonium connected up. So the Ficsonium is over here somewhere. Here it is, right on this belt. And we need to get it down into that little area there, which shouldn't be terribly difficult. Okay, is there any reason to want to sink these? I don't even know if they can be sunk. Let's actually test that. Can Ficsonium itself be sunk? I suspect the answer might be no, but we'll find out just by doing that. And we would need to find a power pole to connect this to first. Where on earth? See, this is the problem with daisy chaining, is that you wind up with no power poles anywhere convenient. Alright, so you are now powered, but you still aren't sinking. So that answered that question. Oh boy, that was a lag spike. Thought the game was going to crash there, but it didn't. Alright, so now we just have to get all of this stuff down. Ooh, geez, another quick lag spike. Just two in a row there. One from dismantling a sink and one from an autosave. Great. You need to not clip through the floor. And my inventory is full, and I have Ficsonium in it too. Alright, we need to get that out of there. First of all, and second of all, we need to take from inventory before depot and clear out enough space in the inventory that we can do basic stuff. And then we bring this belt all the way over this way. And then we get all of that around and in. Alright, so Ficsonium is connected. And it'll be in there in a minute. Trigons are there. Photonic matter is there. So it's just waiting on the EM control rods to make their way up this hilariously long belt. It's both very long and very slow. So, I guess in the meantime, while that's happening, we can drop down and set up... Alright, so how much progress have they made? They've made a good amount of progress. So, let's just drop down and start making the actual power plants. So, we're down here. We need to get all the way down to sea level, which means bringing this belt down a bunch more. We should be within range to build all that stuff still, though. Okay, so we are actually going to want to adjust you ever so slightly. So you output down that way just to avoid that wall, and then you come all the way down to here. Okay, now we just need to see how far out can we place water extractors in this. Pretty dang far. That's a good sign. Okay, so now we are just going to get... We're going to get water extractors in. We need to get this floor to be tall enough. Actually, first of all, let's figure out how many of these we're even going to need. So it's 25 Ficsonium fuel rods that we're going to be making here. So let's see, how much does one nuclear reactor use of those 25? It uses 1 per minute, so we're only going to need 25 reactors, and actually we're only going to need 10 reactors if we max overclock them, which is free on power production. So if we're only going to need 10 reactors, then we can save a little bit of work by not having to do pumps on all of the water extractors. We can just build a single row like this and then put the water extractors behind the power plants, or in front, I guess. Yeah, but behind will be better, I think. Alright, so first we need to get power. We need to get power poles over here. So you come all the way out this way, and then all the way out that way. So that should be a good for a start. So now we get our power plants in. And they can have a little bit of space in front of them. And we are going to need a second row of foundations, because nuclear reactors are real big, as it turns out. So the good news is we don't need to worry about waste. So this can be a much simpler setup than my previous power plants have been. Alright, so we get a power pole over there. Hopefully that will cover us. Hopefully we have enough power coverage to get this whole way now. And let's just bring you a little bit forwards as well, just to help fill in that central area. Alright, so nuclear power plants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're missing cables. Of course we are. Okay, so we can start then by getting the water extractors in for all of these. And hopefully they'll just fit in front like this. So that's 1 and 2. And each of these is going to get a batch of 2 like this. So that's 1, 2 for you. And you get 2. Okay, so that's getting started. We're going to need to remove that, and this will be isolated technically from the rest of this stuff. So then we get more water extractors, get another 2 into there, and another 2 into there. And we're going to need to put a bit of a gap in the reactors in order for all these water extractors to not completely outpace us. So we have 5 of them in now, and cable resupply is going slow. So let's start by getting these 5. Okay, let's get the foundations in for all of this. And we should have plenty of room for 1 to 5 splitters, right? Shouldn't be a huge issue. Okay, and then what I think we can do is we can have the other 5 just sort of behind this in a second row. Just 2 rows should be all that we need for this. So then we get a... please get placed in normally, thank you. So we get a 1 to 5 balancer, which the spacing is going to be tight, that's for sure. So we're going to need to compress everything over to this side so that we hopefully leave enough space. Alright, so these guys all go in like this. Yeah, I should have left more space between the water extractors and the machines, but it's fine, we have enough. It works. So now let's just get these belts in, and hopefully by the time we're done setting this up, we'll have the cables for the other 5. So we get that one, and then this belt runs down and goes in, and then we have 1 more. Just 1 more belt, which comes down this way, and a little bit further and in. Okay, so that's our first row. Now we just get the second row in, which is going to require another block of foundations as well, which is kind of annoying. Alright, so those foundations are all in. And now let's bring the power poles out to here as well, and start getting these power plants set up. Alright, where are those power poles? We need to bring these along to somewhere in there, and then a little bit further all the way over to there. Hopefully that'll be enough that we have. Yeah, looks like we have power coverage everywhere now. So we get all 5 of these guys in, and then we just barely had enough to do that. So now we can get water extractors back over here. So we want to start this a little bit off to the side to account for the fact that these rows of 2 water extractors are ever so slightly wider than the reactors are. that is 2. That is 3. Then we get 4 in. And we get 5. Okay. So, we have all that. Next up, we have our 1 to 5 splitter back here, which goes into there, and then we just connect all this stuff up. And this one, fortunately, does not have space problems like the other one does. We can just connect it in however we feel like. So this goes down to there. And now we have these last 2 all the way up this way. So this goes all the way out there into that one. And then we have 1 more to do. So we get you all the way across, all the way down the whole giant row. And there we go. Now you're in. Okay. So that is that. The belts are mostly in. Next up, we need to get these pipes done. So we need to connect all of these water extractors up. And then we need to put them into the power plants, and we're also going to need to max overclock them so that they can provide enough water for everything. And this isn't really gonna be all that much power. It's not gonna be like a small amount of power. 10 max overclocked nuclear power plants is still significant, but it's just sort of a cherry on top of my power production, really. But that's still fine. Alright, so those are all in. Now we get the pipeline junction and then the pipe going up. Get the pipeline junction and the pipe going up. Let me just get this for all of them. And that will be that. Alright. And 1 more on this row. Now we go around and get the same thing on the other side. So we get you up to there, and we just keep going. So these all add up, and just 2 more if we can find this one. This one was one of the crooked ones, but that's all sorted out. Now that's all going. And those pipe connections aren't pretty, but it's fine. Alright, so I've been thinking a lot about the slow belts, and we should really get the fuel rods going the rest of the way. And yeah, there they are. The Ficsonium fuel rods have actually showed up. They're right over here. So we just need to bring that belt over to where we need it to be. So you need to come over this way. It's actually going to be a bit of a challenge getting you where you need to be, just because of how this whole thing is set up. So you come down most of the way to ground level, and then this goes into there, and then that goes on like that, and then it can just ramp down. Alright, so now it just has to curve around and go all the way over this way, where it has to just go into those 2 splitters that we have, and then that will be everything. And then the only thing left to do will be overclocking and powering up all the water extractors, which is pretty easy. Alright, so that goes in, and we get our splitter. Okay, then this goes all the rest of the way. And that's in. Alright, so that should be all we need to get the fuel rods going. Okay, so next up, the water extractors. These are set, just from what I copy-pasted them to be max overclocked. So now we just have to just daisy chain all of these along, like so. And then we need to do the same thing over here. So that power pole goes into there. All of these guys get daisy chained along as well. And there we are. So that's the water. And now we just get the power plants in. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's that row. And then it connects across to all of these guys in this row. And that should be all clear. They've got their water. They don't have fuel yet, but it's coming. And that will be everything. So the water extractors are starting to turn off just because they've saturated everything. And this is sort of our starting burst of Ficsonium fuel rods. Then past that, it's at this level, which is going to be slower than it should be because of the dark matter problems that we'd identified. But it'll get going, and then it'll get fixed. Once we fix the dark matter crystal shortage, then this can go. So just for comparison, right now, production is like 670-ish. Somewhere in the 670 range. And when this gets booted up, it should be... Oh, we need to actually do the max overclocking of these first. So we will get all of those power shards in. I think we actually need to grab more power shards. So we will paste all these power shards in, and then we'll have to do the math about how much this is going to increase our power output. But I think it should be by like 62,000, right? So we have 10 of these at 6.25 gigawatts or whatever. So the 10 of those at 6,000 each should give us 60,000 total. Once all of this gets all the way down, we will be able to see if that holds true. Currently at 670, so this is like a 10% boost to our overall power production, which is, I mean, it's about comparable to our power boost thing down there from our summer sloops. So that's nice. And we are starting to get to the end of the game, so like our current consumption is, we've still got enough buffer that I'm probably, I think I'm pretty confident that we won't need to do anything crazy to get more out of this. Alright, so this is the first one, and it is burning fuel. And these burn a whole lot faster than the other ones do, that's for sure. Fortunately, they don't produce any waste. Alright, so that is that. And we don't have any radioactive stuff in our inventory, right? Right. So yeah, the power is sort of trending upwards now. We should get above 700,000, probably. Although, it's obviously going to crash back down once the dark matter crystal problem becomes known. Speaking of which, we're not getting enough copper ingots out of this. Why not? So you are feeding into these copper sheets. And these copper sheets are all running at 100%. So what's up with that? These are 27.5 copper ingots each, times 4. Okay, did I just not set these numbers down correctly? Or is there some mysterious other thing I was supposed to be doing with the copper ingots? Let's see here. Copper ingots. We needed to get 110 copper ingots. 110 divided by 4 is 27.5. Okay, but then for our copper sheets, we needed 55 of those. Oh, I see. I know what happened. I'm dumb. Okay, this tool thing that I have here is giving us the numbers for base copper sheets, which is obviously half as efficient as steamed copper sheets. So that's what's happened there. So these guys can be... I don't know what happened there. That's definitely not wrong. It should be 13.75. 13.75 instead of whatever they were at previously. So now these 4 are 13.75 each, which should match up perfectly with these 4 at 13.75 each. And that is that kind of trivial problem solved. And all of these reactors seem like they're working. So that's cool. Let's check the power grid, see what it shows. Yeah, 730,000. Pretty neat. So now let's start trying to figure out that dark matter crystal shortage, and I guess we can start by checking if it's a real thing. So we can fly up here. I actually don't know what I'm doing flying up here. We're gonna have to respawn and head over to the dark matter drone hub thing in a minute, no matter what. So let's get all the way up to here. And a little bit further. But yeah, let's just check to see, like, we know the dark matter supply is intermittent. How bad is it really? Is it actually 33%, or is that just like during a bad period? Okay, so now we're up here, and let's check what's going on with all of these guys first. So we can swap back to hover pack, and okay, 26%. It might actually be worse than 33%. That's not encouraging. So we head over to these guys, and we've got, you are straight up 0%. That's what I expected because I disconnected you. So let's get that one out because it's not reflective of anything anymore. And we have 29% and 29%. All right, so we are going to, yeah, there's nothing to do but respawn here and check our dark matter supply. Alright, so we respawn. And the dark matter supply was down south, I believe. So let's fly over this way. And that's not a good time for a lag spike. They always happen when you're in the air and worried that you might need to dodge something. Alright, so let's get over here to, I believe this is the dark matter collection hub area. So here we are. And we've got dark matter collector 1 is empty and not doing anything. Dark matter collector 2 is empty and not doing anything. which means that this is just feeding all of the dark matter supply off of just this. Alright, so I know for a fact that NQP dark matter output is supposed to be going here, as is something else, right? If we search for dark matter, we got dark matter source, which is like right here, NQP dark matter output, which status is showing a warning sign of some kind. Alright, so we're gonna have to head over to the neural quantum processors, I guess, to see what's up with them. And that is just sort of along this way. Good. I hope I can make it. Alright, we managed to make it back within range of a power line. So now we can just get over here and slide jump along to the neural quantum processors, see if those drones over there are working or not. So we do some slide jumping, and it's up this way. Let's see, where exactly is it? I think it's relatively north-ish, actually. I don't know how north. I feel like I've passed it. I feel like it wasn't this far away. Yeah, okay, it's down this way. It's not quite as... Oh, that's it down there. Those particle accelerators down there. I'm pretty sure that neural quantum processors... Okay, so we headed north, but we needed to head east, I think. So yeah, we were just heading in the wrong direction from the start. Oh well. So we just slide jump back here, and let's see if neural quantum processor are even outputting any dark matter crystals. Okay. So we get all the way over this way, and we fall off the tracks almost. But now we're in the right spot. So let's investigate. From here, we drop down, continue to drop down, and here we've got the neural quantum processor output themselves, which seems to be cooking along just fine. Then over here, so the dark matter crystal output is going, and it seems to be somewhat non-functional. Oh, did I not give you... Yeah, that's what it is. You don't have a drone. So you're supposed to have a drone to do all this. So that will pick those guys up. And previously, wherever was taking from here was the one doing the accessing, so we didn't need to worry about it. Alright, so then you also get some packaged rocket fuel to jumpstart your journey. And so those go out, and then we will have to see whether one singular drone is even enough to do all of this. So we have 80, 160, 240, 320. So this is 400 dark matter crystals, in theory. That's a lot. I have to imagine we're going to need a second drone port for this. So let's just get that set up preemptively, because I think there's just absolutely a 0% chance that it isn't necessary. So you go in, you get a drone, you get power line connection, and then this gets a splitter, which just goes into there, And I guess that could be a Mark IV belt to line up with all the rest of them. Okay, so this one is sending it to Dark Matter Collector 1. This one is NQP Dark Matter Source 2. And you are going to go to Dark Matter Collector 2. And you're going to get a chunk of fuel to start making that trip. And then hopefully with the two of these together, we should be able to handle the dark matter output. And I believe that before we made those tweaks, the dark matter supply was working on the drone ports, so this should go back to being functional again. So that is all set up. And is that a train shortage? Yeah, the trains are broken again, and I think they must be broken in the same space that they were last time. So let's head over there and get that fixed up. So we're going to respawn, figure out what's going on with the trains, and yeah, it looks like it's pretty much all in this area. We actually don't need to hover pack, or we don't need to hyper tube cannon ourselves. We can just walk the relatively short distance. So off we go. So we just follow these warning lights down this way, and I think I know what we're going to see. We're going to see a supercomputer Caterium train trying to make an illegal turnaround in this. That's what it was last time anyways. Yes, supercomputer Caterium. Okay, so first of all, you need to move on so that you're not in the way. And then second of all, we need to get in this train to just see what happens. So this has been a problem which has cropped up multiple times, like twice in 2 streams, right? So it's definitely happening probably every loop, if maybe like every couple loops. It should be every loop, right? If it thinks it needs to do a turnaround, but I don't know why it thinks it needs to do a turnaround. And that's what we're going to discover. So the place it's doing the turnaround is down there, sort of on the south corner of the main intersection. And it's headed over this way. So I don't even know where it's going to. It's going to supercomputer Caterium supply. Okay, so we are going in here, and we are going to be delivering all of the Caterium that we've got. And hopefully this is a quick stop, and it's not going to be sitting here waiting for an hour, although it very easily could be, and like that's why it takes so long for this to crop up every time. Or it could just be that it takes a long time for me to notice that it's cropped up. Okay, it looks like it's immediately unloading. So that's probably good. So the problem is basically somewhere between the Caterium source and this, it's not possible for this train to be traveling in the correct direction along the tracks. I don't know why that is. Okay, so that... Wait, is it just this? This was a problem which we'd had to fix previously, right? So the only way to get into this station is from this way, but that train obviously wants to get in from here. Now, I remember we'd had a good reason. So I remember there was some problem we were facing that caused us to dismantle this. But I don't know what it was, so we're just going to put that back and hope that that problem doesn't reemerge. And I think there was like some other... I think the problem was that there was like some other train which was using this as like a pit stop to turn around. Okay, wait, no, hang on though. Yeah, so this is the input line here, right? So in order to get into this, you have to be on this line, which previously was only possible over there, causing that train to get confused and turned around. So, what had happened with this? There was some problem when this was in, and it's got to be to do with the fact that this makes a great big arc. Like, somehow trains couldn't make this turn or something. Can't remember though. We'll have to hang out and see what happens. Speaking of which, let's just check the power grid. It should probably be... Okay, it's definitely wobbling. We're up above 700k like a lot of the time, but not all the time. And hopefully, as our dark matter crystals get distributed better, that should stabilize. So, if we want to make sure that this big loop wasn't a problem, what do we do? So, I can't even remember what exactly happened with this loop. But I remember that there was like some weird thing where trains would come out of here and then just immediately go into there, or come out of there and immediately go into here, I guess would be what would be more likely to happen, or something along those lines. Which we have this in to solve. But I can't remember what it was. Okay, so the dark matter crystal shortage, I believe I have solved, so we can get rid of that note. Okay, while we were just sort of sitting here waiting to see if something weird happens at this intersection, let's check our remaining things. So we have biochemical sculptors, which we're going to need another 400 Ficsite trigons. I do not know how many of those we have and how many we need. And 5 assembly director systems. So we have 7.5 assembly director systems, right? Because we multiply production by 10, so we shouldn't need to make any more of those. We're just going to have to go digging through this entire massive factory to find them again, because I have no idea where those are. But theoretically, if they're functional, then we should have enough of those. No problem. Ficsite trigons, we probably have 400 to spare. I think at some point I had done the math and figured out how many I need, although I don't know if I did that math correctly. Because I also thought I'd done the math on the time crystals, and it turns out I was short by about half. So, who knows. But assuming that the assembly director system factory isn't broken, and the Ficsite trigon math was done correctly, biochemical sculptors should be a bit of a gimme. And then we need to... I can't even remember what these dang things are called. Where is the... What's the next space elevator part thing called? Let's just click on Ficsite trigons and... Okay, yes, AI expansion servers. So, we need 40 magnetic field generators per minute, which is... We only have 10, because we do our 10 times thing. So we're going to need to expand that out, which is going to be a whole lot of stuff. Then, the neuroquantum processors. I think we accounted for this when we designed that factory. I think we're looking that far ahead for both of these. So we'll need to deal with the magnetic field generators, but then this will also produce some dark matter residue, which will be nice. That'll give us an extra 1,000 to that, which hopefully we can think of something to do with. Alright, so the AI expansion servers will be mildly annoying, but like, assuming our neural quantum processor and superposition oscillator math was correct, which I'm pretty sure, I'm like 80%, maybe even 90% confident that I deliberately built these up to 40 a minute instead of 30 a minute. So then that should be fine. And it'll just be the magnetic field generators that are holding us back. And then there are the... where are those things? The quantum... the ballistic warp drive things. So the ballistic warp drive things, I think, again, pretty sure we built 60 superposition oscillators per minute specifically to accommodate this plus the AI expansion servers. We definitely did the singularity cell math, so we definitely have enough of those. 400 dark matter crystals is kind of terrifying, but we should be able to scrounge them together. And then the thermal propulsion rockets should be all set up. So yeah, I think actually we are extraordinarily close to being done with the game. So if I'm correct, and all of the math that I've done is good, we have all of these. The only thing that we need to build that isn't just directly putting things into the project parts themselves. I believe the only thing we need to build are the magnetic field generators, which I don't think are terribly difficult. So like we have, I believe, every other input to every other recipe already pre-crafted in the necessary numbers. So we are like a couple streams away from being done at this point, genuinely, which is real surprising because like I know I'd been planning ahead for these last couple project parts through this entire phase. I didn't realize quite how good of a job I'd done. So yeah, we need to get our 40 magnetic field generators, and we need to scrounge up all the other parts and make sure that we did the math right, and that's where things could all come crumbling down. So if in my previous preparations I haven't done the math right and we don't actually have the 400 spare Fixite trigons or the 4 neural quantum processors instead of 3, then things could all come crumbling down and we could be a long way away. But assuming that none of that's happened, and I might be able to brute force some of those problems with summer sloops if it comes to that, but we are genuinely we might straight up be done next week. Like we've got 4 things to craft, right? We've got the magnetic field generators, we've got the biochemical sculptors, the AI expansion servers, and the ballistic warp drives. Literally just 4 recipes. And so the magnetic field generators have some recipes built in prior to them, which is why I think it'll take maybe 2 streams instead of just 1. But I genuinely think we're just about coming to the end of this whole process. And then it'll just be, and we aren't even going to have to let them wait for that long, because obviously 200 ballistic warp drives, when you're making 40 a minute or something, is really not that long either. So I think that is pretty great. Okay, so I've been poking around this intersection for a while. I haven't spotted any catastrophic problems here, and I believe that the situation down a little bit south of me is also not going to be a problem anymore. So unless the problem which crops up here is just very rare, then I think it must have been fixed somehow. I don't know what it was. But I guess we'll see on that. So as for the power grid... Okay, so we are going to need to go back to the power grid to check out what's happening, because we've basically dropped down to pre levels. Like, we don't have any of those things. So let's respawn, head back up to our new power plant, and see what we've run out of. So this is possibly going to require stopping off. It might still be dark matter crystals. That's entirely possible, in which case we'll have to poke the neural quantum processors with a stick to see if we can get some loose change out of them. Alright, so we're dropping down here, and here we are. So the Ficsonium output is currently 100%. It's these guys who aren't doing their thing. So what are you short of? No, you are short of Ficsonium. Why is that? You need 12.5 each. These guys are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These guys are outputting... Oh wait, no, they're not all. Oh, I see. So it's just because of the weirdness of how the dark matter residue get supplied that, like, there's some over here coming from this loop back. Yeah, that makes sense. So this should tick up towards 100% over time as like the amount of dark matter residue in the system corrects. And that'll just take a little bit. But it should definitely happen. So yeah, these first couple are at 100%, and then it's these latter couple which are lower. It's actually just the very first one, which is all the way up at 100%. Theoretically, the 500 coming from over there should be enough to fill the first 2.5. So let's go check to see if there is still dark matter shortages over here, which is keeping this stuff down. No, so that dark matter crystal cycler is at 100%. This one is at 99%, which is basically the same thing. And we've got a whole solid box worth, well, like half of a box, but you know, we've got a solid half a box worth of dark matter crystals up there, feeding everything. So yeah, I think it is just a matter of time until this all gets sorted out. So that's all good. Nothing to worry about there. And yeah, this was a pretty successful stream. It's a bit shorter than I would normally like, but that's fine. I mean, we're at a solid stopping point. Everything seems to be working and slowly reaching up towards the 100% mark that we need. And that should be that. As long as there's not some weird stuff going on with the actual reactors or anything, which they're probably fine. Let's drop down. So these should be running at like 80%, right? Okay, but instead only one of you is producing a steam cloud. Okay, no, that was just a weird loading thing, I guess. So you are 25%, 31%, 28%, 27%. Why are these numbers so much worse? Oh, it's because of the delay, probably. So because this is a very long Mark 1 belt, if the dark matter supply stabilizing was relatively recent, then it simply just hasn't reached down here yet. And yeah, we can see that these belts are nowhere near 25 a minute. But I'm guessing if we fly up here, yeah, now this belt looks very close to 25 a minute. And I mean, it's hard to estimate really, but it should just be a question of the belt going through. But yeah, so I think that is going to be all for today. Bit of a shorter stream, but that happens sometimes when you end a project early and don't quite have the plans ready to start up a new project. So we're going to wrap up here. Thanks everyone for hanging out. We're going to be finishing off this factory in, yeah, probably next week, unless something unexpected goes wrong, which is like a probably 50% chance of happening, but, you know, we could be optimistic, right? So, if you're interested in that, make sure to stop by then. Otherwise, I will be doing Factorio tomorrow, as usual. I stream every weekday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time. So, if you're interested in any of that, make sure to stop by and give me a follow if you haven't already, so that you know when I'm live and when I'm streaming. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks everyone for hanging out.